doing a variety of things, including taking care of like Ransomware. Oh my God.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Karen Turan, one of the 3 Karens here today. I haven't met the others yet, and I'm class of 73. I'd like to welcome you to our 3rd AADC Mabel Smith Douglas Smart Talks. If you aren't aware, we've done 2 Smart Talks prior. We've done it on genealogy and how to pay off your student loan. And certainly we are open to any suggestions that you might have for any additional Smart Talks. Now, I'd like to remind everyone to put their phones on vibrate, because we want to make sure that we hear every single word. And with that said, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. It's Peter Romness, and Peter is the Cybersecurity Solutions Lead in the U.S. Public Sector CTO office at Cisco Systems. For over 30 years, he has devoted his deep knowledge and diverse experience to help government agencies securely accomplish their missions. He is laser focused on mitigating cybersecurity threats, maintaining individuals' privacy, protecting sensitive information, and securing government intellectual property. Peter brings Cisco's advanced cybersecurity solutions to departments and agencies at federal, state, and local governments and educational institutions. He works with the National Institute of Standards and Technology and the National Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, and has contributed their 1800 series special publications. Peter helps the broader IT community understand the very latest cyber capabilities and risk mitigation methods to effectively address cyber threats. His unique combination of technical background and a passion for clearly conveying high-tech topics to audiences of all levels of understanding makes him invaluable to Cisco and other partners. Prior to Cisco Systems, Peter held leadership positions at Hewlett-Packard, AT&T, and Panasonic. He holds a degree in mechanical engineering from Duke University. With that, I'd like to introduce Peter Romness. The way this will work is that Peter will talk for about 20 minutes or so, then we'll have a break for questions, and then we'll proceed again with additional talk from Peter. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So clearly I did not write that introduction. And usually I do talk to people in the information technology business. And so this is very much a stretch for me to talk to all levels of learning about cybersecurity. So there are a couple things that I'd like to do today. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask you what CTO is?
Chief Technology Officer.
Thank you.
I had to stop and think. So we, in our office, we kind of help drive the strategy for how Cisco brings cybersecurity to the government, and that's the federal government, the state and local governments, and to education and medical. And so, well, what happened here?
You were half.
Yeah, I must have been. Okay. So what I want to do is kind of give you an idea about what's going on out there, what the cyber threat is. Because I find that a lot of people don't understand it, especially people who aren't in the business. Then I want to tell you how we work with organizations to stop threats at a very high level, just so you can get an idea of what's going on when people talk about cybersecurity. I think the thing that you're all going to find most interesting is some tips I'm going to give you on protecting yourself and your data. And then I want to brag a little bit about Cisco, about something that we're doing, giving back to universities like Rutgers and educational institutions all over the country. But I'm going to spend most of the time on protecting yourself. So a lot of times people ask me, why is there such a cybersecurity problem? And it kind of gets back to the Willie Sutton quote about, why do you rob banks? It's where the money is. And the total market for the bad guys, so the amount of money the bad guys can make, is estimated to be at $1 trillion. And I've heard actually larger quotes than that. To put that into perspective, the cybersecurity business of protecting cybersecurity, the total world market is $106 billion. So 1/10 of what the bad guys are making on cybersecurity is spent on defending cybersecurity right now. And this gives you an idea, just a quick scan about a year ago of the dark web. And who's familiar with the term dark web? Okay, great. So a scan of the dark web showed that these were about the prices you could get for different things out there that are for sale on the dark web. So you can see a social security number is only about $1 because those are so readily available. A really strong bank account, maybe $1,000, but that's gone down a little bit recently. And then things like spam and an exploit is a tool that's used to infiltrate a computer system. That's called an exploit. I'm going to have to. Sorry about that. Okay. So there's a lot of money to be made, and that's the main thing I want to impress upon you. There are a lot of people out there trying to get your personal data, trying to get intellectual property from organizations that do research, trying to oftentimes just disrupt. This right here, this term DDoS, that stands for Distributed Denial of Service. Now you don't need to write that down, but what it is somebody goes out and hires a bunch of machines to all go and hit the same website at the same time, and it effectively overloads it and closes down the website of an organization. That's called a distributed denial of service. And if I decided that I wanted to hit Rutgers University's main website with a DDoS, distributed denial of service, I could go buy that for $7 an hour.
And why would you do that?
To disrupt, to protest, to to get the administration to do something I want. Or the other scary thing is to camouflage it if I was really going in to steal something. Is the thing that happens. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's really being difficult. There we go. And just to kind of give an idea of some of the things that are going on out there, there's a organization called Ponemon that does a study every year of what a cybersecurity breach costs. And they broke it down last time by the number of records that were stolen. And just say if a medical or a hospital gets breached, then on average it would cost $212 to that hospital for each record that was stolen. Now that includes many, many things. It includes the reputation of the hospital. It includes all of the extra hours of people having to go and try and find the problem and fix it. And then my partner and I at Cisco did a study of looking at some public sector breaches recently, and we just looked at the initial cost that the organization had to come up with in order to address the breach. And we saw that it was about $5 to $6 per record to provide the free credit checks and notifications to all the people that were affected. And then another 6 to 7 for the immediate calling in of the specialist companies and things like that, which was, it was only about $11 to $13 per record. But this doesn't include things like the reputation, like overhead, like all of the other things that go into it. And the reason that we like this study so much is because when we talk to people who run these organizations, they realize that this amount of money that they have to come up with is totally unbudgeted. They have to find it somewhere in their budget and come up with it in order to immediately respond. So it's a huge problem out there. And if anybody's had their identity stolen, it can take 10 to 15 years to straighten that out. So this is why this whole idea of cybersecurity is important. And when we start looking about what's happening in the world, there's a lot of things happening. So you guys all know that the world is more connected than ever. And if you lose connectivity, that is an economic loss to both you as the consumer trying to use it, but even more to the organization that is trying to do business. It may be lost business. The other thing that's happening is we are connecting a lot of other things to the internet. So thermostats, printers, cameras, things that monitor our water, and in municipal organizations that control water quality, control sewage, control all of our trades. And as those things get connected, all of a sudden we are making it a lot more things to protect, but we're also making it a lot more things to attack, and a lot more things that have to be dealt with on the IT infrastructure. Okay. And so what's happened is there are all these different types of attacks. Now, this is kind of a scare slide, and I talk about cybersecurity presenters who are get up and just scare the heck out of people and then try and sell them something. I kind of compare it to my young son who loves to watch America's Funniest Home Videos. And when a little kid walks in the room and the mom or dad jumps out and scares them with a mask on, and that it's always really funny there. But that doesn't show that, you know, that kid won't sleep that night and you have to talk him down off the wall, and maybe some extra counseling when he gets older, right? So I really don't want to do that to you guys. But these are a lot of the things that happen. This one is probably not going to affect anybody in this room. This is called advanced persistent threats. This is the most advanced threats that are out there in the world. And they are usually created by nation states, and they go after particular organizations, oftentimes government organizations, but also after research and development organizations in an economy, and stealing intellectual property. And I one time heard an FBI agent say, imagine that every day 3 tractor trailer loads of intellectual property are stolen from the United States. And that's the equivalent of what's going on the internet right now. So much intellectual property is getting stolen. And of course, that means that jobs and things like that are being affected. So, you know, there's all kinds of different attacks and things like that. Okay, but I'm not going to go into that and scare you. What I do want to do is talk about some of the technologies that we use with large organizations to fix that. So when you log in, you probably log in and you use a username and a password, right? And that gets you to whatever resource that you want to get to. That's called identity and access control. And the thing about it is that we're taking it much farther past username and password. So we allow access to particular things in an organization based upon who the person is, so username and password, what, meaning what device are they connecting with. So I have different access at Cisco if I log in on my laptop versus my iPhone. When, what time of day? So maybe I'm a contractor, I can only get in from 9 to 5, but if I'm the CEO, maybe I can get in 24 hours. Who, what, when, where, and how. So how am I connecting? Am I connecting from Wi-Fi at Starbucks, or am I on campus, or all of that thing? So we take it to that whole next step. And then we only allow people to go to specific things. So if I'm a personnel person, I can go to the personnel servers, and I can go to the personnel files, but I can't go to the accounting and to the sales. And the same with all of the other profession. So that's a new thing that you might start hearing about. It's called microsegmentation. And it's used so that if an attacker gets into my organization, he can't spread. He can't go from one place to another. We also use just network security. You know, how are you coming in and blocking it? And you may have heard the term firewall before. And oftentimes, I mean, 8 years ago, people said, if you put a firewall on your house, that's probably all you need for security. Well, it's not quite all you need anymore. Okay, and then web and email. So the most common way for bad guys to attack somebody is called phishing. And they will come in via email and get you to click on a link or to download a file. And so these two different technologies work very similar, but one's for email and one for technology. It's things we do is that we look at the reputation of the sending website or emailer. We look at how long those sites have been available and open to the public. For a website, we look at how deep it is, so how many pages deep is it, and how long has it been out there. And we won't allow our customers to go to sites that we determine to be bad. We also, you know, kind of hunt down and look for threats. So, you know, that's one of the other technology we use. Behavior monitoring. This is one of the more advanced techniques for looking for threats in an environment. But if say I am a researcher at 3M, and I go to certain websites most of the time, and I bring information in, and I go to my research server most of the time, if all of a sudden I start sending a lot of data out to the internet, that's an abnormal behavior, and that would be flagged and shown up. Or if all of a sudden my machine starts sending the same small file to all the machines around it, then that looks like someone is spreading, you know, trying to spread a bad thing through the network, and that would be flagged. So that's the idea behind behavior monitoring, and that is a big thing going on right now. Okay, the next one is advanced malware. The way that we do that at Cisco is that we monitor about 1/3 of all traffic on the internet. And so that if we find a bad file in Germany at a car factory, within 5 minutes, all of our customers around the world are protected from it. So we as the files come into our customers, organizations on maybe through the web, maybe in an email, if we've seen that file many times before and we know it's good, we'll let it through. If we've seen it many times before and we know it's bad, we block it. And if if we've never seen it before, we don't know what it is, then we do all kinds of research on it. We bring it into something called a sandbox, where we run it in an isolated environment and see what it does. Or we watch it over time, or we dig into the code and look at what that file is made of and look for big bad things in it. And then, if we find out it's bad, or if a file we previously thought was good, we can then notify all of our customers, and within, again, that 5 minutes, they're notified that this file is bad, and it can automatically go hunt down that file anywhere in their environment. So that's kind of how advanced malware works. And then as people move to cloud, okay, so if I'm using Microsoft Office 365, or if I am using an application like maybe Salesforce, or are there cloud applications people use in this room?
Google Photos?
Google Photos, Apple Drive, all of those. Yeah. So we offer our customers an ability to control what their people are doing in the cloud, and what, if their organization uses one of these cloud applications, what data can be taken out of it, and just give the visibility that you would have if it was on site. And then for small businesses, we offered something called a Unified Threat Manager, UTM, which has a bunch of the stuff all built in and a little bit easier to manage and a little bit smaller scale. And that's what that Meraki thing is. So just to, I don't want to like overwhelm you, but I want to give you a flavor of the technology that's out there. Yes?
Are these technology techniques used for the general, like Microsoft, or some of these applications that the individual uses so that they're protected too?
Not as much as I'd like to see that. And I've always said, why don't the service providers do this and block it before it gets to your house or to your small business? And the answer I get is that they feel like that's not their, they don't want to throttle the internet. And personally, I think that's a bit of a cop-out that keeps the whole cybersecurity business humming along very nicely. Oh, yes.
I have a question about the cloud.
Yes.
I don't know much about that, but like with Google Photos, I have friends who say, well, my photos are all out in the cloud. Is it safe to assume that when you are using the cloud that you are not safe, that it is much more accessible to others?
Okay, so the easiest way to think about the cloud is it's your data on somebody else's machine.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have to understand what the other people are doing to protect it. So when I talk to an administrator of, say, King County, Washington, where I was last week, when she puts out a subcontract to a cloud company, she forces them to have certain criteria met, or she won't contract with them. As a consumer, I think what we have to depend on is the reputation of the company. So, you know, someone like an Apple, they have pretty darn good security. And in general, these people do this for a living, so it's probably better than if it was sitting on your machine. Yeah. I mean,
think about the press that Google or
yeah,
get if your data or my data or
yes.
your data.
Well, and you've seen it.
I have stuff out in iCloud and in Google Photos. And I work for Cisco, and I know what kind of threats are out there, and some of the bad guys that attack Rutgers University, and even just us as consumers. So, but I personally trust, that's my opinion, I trust the Googles and the Apples of the world just because they're one of the biggest.
I mean, they do pretty well. Okay, so the last part about technology is that you need to have intelligence. And you'll oftentimes hear about government saying that one of the big things for cybersecurity is that we have to share intelligence. Well, Cisco has made a huge investment. We have the largest non-governmental threat intelligence organization in the world. It's almost 300 people all around the world that spend full-time hunting for threats. They see about 1/3 of all web traffic. They see more web searches than Google does by 8 times. Okay, and you know, our searches aren't quite as sophisticated as the Google ones. It says, is this file bad? Is this file bad? Is this file bad? But it's a lot, and it's all over the world. And so what we like to talk about is that we see things globally, but we protect locally for our customers. And you know, everybody kind of goes for that. But I do have to brag, my one ad for Cisco is the industry is for a brand new advanced threat, it takes 100 days for the industry to find it. We're down under 4 hours. Okay, that's my one brag.
Very good.
Okay. So, do you want to take a break and ask questions, or because this would be a good place to do that? Keep going? Okay. So, you know, if you have a question, just stop me, okay? As part of my job at Cisco, I work with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Their website is stopthinkconnect.org. And what I'm going to show you now is directly from their website, and I put the link up there. Okay. And they really do some of the best thinking about how individuals can protect their data and protect the internet. I'm happy to share these slides. That's just stopthinkconnect.org tips. And I'm going to go into each of these things for you. But it's just a high-level overview. Keep your machine clean, protect your personal information. When you connect with care. And then we go into, you know, we get past these technical things about being wise when you're using the web and being a good citizen online, and then owning your presence. Okay, so it's not just about the technical stuff. It's about using your own smarts to help keep yourself safe. When I work with organizations, like you mentioned that I work with National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST. They like to say that the technology part is the easy part. It's the people, process, and policy that really gets hard. And that's why I like this organization, is because they talk about people, process, and policy also for individuals. Okay. So keep your software current. That is not just on your PC. That is and not just on your phone. It's on any device that you have. It's on all of the applications that you have. We're getting to a point in the industry where most of these applications allow you to check a box that says automatically update. It will normally do that in the middle of the night, or it will ask you, can you update now? I highly recommend you check that box. Don't forget about thermostats. Don't forget about your light controller that may be connected to the internet. If it has a default password set in it, change it. Okay? And then the other thing is, if you get a USB stick, everybody knows what a USB stick is? Or another thing to plug into your computer, don't automatically trust it. If you have some kind of cybersecurity software, some kind of virus scanner or something like that, then you should scan it when you put it in. Some of the most famous attacks that have been in the news, or some famous things that people have done, is they'll like drop a USB drive in a parking lot and it'll say payroll information on it. And of course someone's going to pick it up and stuff it in and want to take a look. Okay, so don't trust anything that you put in your machine. Keep it clean. Okay. Your login, yes.
How effective are they, like Norton and McAfee software that you put on, you know, to?
They're all pretty good. They're all pretty good. And it changes from, you know, it's, if you put on McAfee 2 years ago, it may have been the best then, it may not be now. So you kind of have to pay and pray a little bit that it stays good. But also check with Consumer Reports and different, you know, you can do searches for reputable organizations that rate them. And then I would go with one of those. And I mean, I'm getting off topic just a little bit, but when I talk to big customers, I talk to them about managing risk, meaning that you need to look at what you are willing to risk versus what you're willing to pay. In organizations, because you can't do everything that would protect, you know, there's no organization, even with unlimited funding, can do everything to protect from everything. And as an individual person just trying to protect my home and my kids from going to the wrong places, I mean, that could be a full-time job. I'm not willing to do that. Yes.
Yes, I'm always very careful and do the software updates. What about updating your whole operating system? Is that a good thing to do or not?
Yes, yes. Now, do not respond to an email that comes in saying, click here to update your operating system. It will be a message from your operating system.
Apple,
And Apple is very good about it, yes.
The problem is, I found the last time I did an update, they went from iPhoto to photo, and I don't like it, but I was able to keep the iPhoto, but now I have a problem, it won't work with certain things.
Yeah, yes.
There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, you can register, you can write them a cursedly worded letter.
I've tried writing to Apple about, I tried to tell them in their stores to put stools there with backs on them when I go in for workshops, and they don't listen to me.
No, they need enough people, and it's all peer pressure, right?
Yeah.
The only way it changes is peer pressure. You need to let them know it, and if enough people complain, maybe it'll change. But, and then they have to weigh keeping things safe and moving forward versus keeping people happy with the status quo. So, it's all a very hard thing. Okay, so, gone. So then protecting your information. Lock down your login, okay? So there's a lot of things to talk about here. Anybody know what MFA is? Multi-Factor Authentication. Okay?
I thought you were talking about a master's.
I think that's a capital F. So the factors are something you know, something you have, someone you are, right? So normally with like Google, you can have them send you either a text or an email that says, yes, it's me logging in. There are third parties that you can use, but my advice on this is that if you have the option with a Gmail or with whatever application you're using to have an email sent to you or something like that, especially if you make that risk-based decision that it's important to you, maybe a bank or something like that, I would say turn on the multi-factor authentication. And it's a little bit more hassle, but it's worth it. One thing that I do is that anytime my credit card is used, I get a text. Okay, so that's just a notification that I turned on with the bank. I couldn't do it down to 0, but anything over $1, I get notification that my credit card is being used. Just a very simple thing. It drives my kids nuts because I'll say, what are you buying at Target right now? Okay, passwords. Please, whatever you do, do not use the same password on all of your accounts. When somebody finds a password, when a bad guy finds a password, they immediately go and try it on every site that they know. Username and your email address and that password. And it's amazing how many times it works for them. So if you can figure out a way that works for you, but the one thing that most people recommend is a password manager. There's one called LastPass, there's Pass Manager, there are quite a few out there. And they will give a very long password, and all you have to do is remember your password to the password manager. Okay, so that's recommended. Yes?
So if I use LastPass on my phone and at the office I go on to Amazon,
Yeah,
I can't download LastPass for that, so.
I think you get 3 devices,
Okay,
and you can add more with the different ones.
I don't know if my company would allow me to use LastPass as a manager.
Again, I hope it works.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, and then, this organization says, if you got to create one, do one that's at least 11 characters long, and if you have to, write it down. But don't stick it on the back of your keyboard. Yes. Yes,
Can the Apple keychain be trusted? I've seen that.
I think so.
All right, never used that, I've always been leery.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that for a company, but for an individual, yes.
We actually have a question from online.
Yes.
Douglas alumni class of 1972.
That's not physically me, but, so many people access the internet through places like Starbucks or shopping malls. Is this safe? Also, what measures do we need to take on our phones, not just on our laptops?
Okay, all of this, everything I'm talking about applies to any device that it will work. So, you know, all of these things that I'm talking about applies to phones as well as laptops. Now, let me get to, I think the next slide has Starbucks on it. Okay, so if you have a unique work account, unique password. Okay, I think I've covered that. Okay, I broke one of my rules of shutting down every other application before you make a presentation, and it's biting me today. Okay, so connect with care, and this is where we address that. Know where you are, and it's very easy to intercept a wireless Wi-Fi signal. And also know what hotspot you're connecting to. Because it's not uncommon for someone to go into a Starbucks, set up a wireless access point of some sort, and name it something instead of STARBUCKS, it may be STAFBUCK, however you spell Starbucks, okay? And the most common thing is you place an I with an L, or an L with a 1, that type of thing. So it's called spoofing. And so be careful of that. And you know, if you get an email from somebody and you don't know what's in it or who it's from, don't open it, just trash it. If you get an email with an attached document or a link from a friend and it looks suspicious, don't click on it. And you're much better throwing it out and having them complain to you than you are with the things that could happen. And the other is that I often do is I'll text a friend and say, did you send me a file? A very quick thing like that, okay? There's an old saying that I've been saying it a long time, I'm not sure where it came from, but it used to be that the bad guys drove down the street looking for the nicest house and they would rob it. Now they're driving down the street looking for any open door. Okay, so it's not just the people that have something to lose that could get affected by this stuff. So everybody has to be careful. Yes.
So going back to Starbucks, it would be stupid in a public place with open Wi-Fi to be there and do your online banking.
Yes, unless you use something called a VPN, virtual private network. There are some of those available to consumers, but if, say, I'm logging in using my company's VPN, then that would be a little bit safer. And I wouldn't, I mean, you can log on and do certain things there that you make that risk-based decision for yourself again. Is it worth it for me to see my email right now? Is it worth, can I go and browse Facebook and see something versus do I want to post things to Facebook? And that may not be as important to you as your banking. But yes, I would be very careful which networks I was on if I was banking.
What about the not Wi-Fi, just like the regular Verizon 4G? Is that a different story, or?
That is Wi-Fi. I would think that's I haven't researched that. I would think that's a little more secure. You mean like in your house?
No. She means on her cell phone.
Oh, on your cell phone. Oh, that's much more secure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's much more secure. Yes.
I had a question. Is there a difference between security for a desktop computer versus a laptop?
Most of them run similar operating systems, so they're about the same.
About this other
Yeah. I will tell you that the Apple an Android because it's a closed system. And even companies like, even big companies that want to work with Apple, they will not open up their system to them. And Cisco is the only company that's able to put our security stuff onto the Apple inside their, behind their cloaks. And that's through a very long partnership. So it's a very closed system, so it is more secure. Okay. And then when you're doing anything with your money, look for HTTPS or SHTTP at the beginning of websites to know that you're secure. Okay, so let's move on to the next. WebWise. Okay, stay current with what's going on out there. And these are all very simple things. Think before you act. And then, has anybody in here heard of ransomware?
Yes.
Okay, so just in case, that is where somebody infects your computer, they encrypt all of your files, and then they send you a letter that says you need to pay me to get them decrypted. And it used to be if you paid them $200, you would get your files back. Now the price has gone up. We're seeing somehow they're adjusting the price for their market. And they're not as upstanding as they used to be, for lack of a better word, and that many of these people are just out to make a fast buck. They take your money and they never give you your encryption key to decrypt your files. So the best thing that you can do is have your files backed up. So you can buy a little disk drive at Circuit City for $50 that you can keep your files backed up, or you can back them up to the iCloud or back them up to one of these clouds that you can use.
Question.
Yeah.
Does that include the time machine on Apple? Or
Yeah.
Is that safe even if your
Yes.
machine is?
Yes. Yes. I use Time Machine.
Yeah.
How often do you use Time Machine? How often do you tell it to go off?
I don't know. I use the default.
Okay.
I plug it in when I'm at my desktop, and it does it like 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah.
That's a backup system? What
Yes.
is that?
On Apple, it's a backup. I can show you where it is. I'll do this. So if I go into settings, right here it says Time Machine, and this tells me when my latest backup was, and it says we'll back up again next time I connect.
Is that automatic? Or
You set how often, or I just use the
but it's
default.
doing it, if you're using the default, it just does it automatically?
Yeah.
Because I never heard of it.
And it's backing up to the cloud?
Yes. No, it backs up to external disk drive that you would buy.
So you have to buy something for it,
Okay. Now this talks about being a good citizen. Okay, so if you click on the wrong thing, you could affect a lot of other people, and that's the point they want to get home. So be careful what you click on because it affects more than you. The golden rule applies to the internet. So post only things about other people that you would want posted about you. The whole idea is we're trying to protect people's reputations. We're trying to protect our own reputation. If you're mad when you type something, you probably should not hit send, those type of things. Okay? And then if anything happens to you, you should report it. I give the Cybercrime Internet Complaint Center, but you should also think about contacting your local authorities. 5 years ago, if I called the police department, they didn't know what to do with a cybersecurity incident. Now most of them have at least one officer that's up to date on this type of thing.
Question.
Yes?
Yeah, could you please read that website?
Oh,
I can't see it.
It's www.IC Indigo Charlie 3.
IC3, yeah.
.gov.
The other thing that I do often, if I get an email from one of the companies that I work with, and I suspect it's not from them, you forward it to abuse@. That's
Yes.
a very common
Yes.
thing to do.
Thank you. Okay, and then, this is on protecting your own personal information and your own reputation. So just think of your personal information like money. Google, Facebook, all of these companies, they're offering you a free service. Well, there's an old saying, when the service is free, the product is you. And you are the product. They sell your information, they mine your information. So anything that you put out there, you can't control all of this yourself. You'll go nuts trying. But be careful what you put out. Be aware when you agree to the terms and conditions of the website. And I just go and click agree. I don't read it personally, but I'm usually aware that they're going to be doing some things I don't like. And you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware that people are going to share information, and so be careful what you put out there. So share with care. Okay. So yes.
Yes, I've been phasing out. I had a Yahoo email account. I know they had problems, and so I've gone to a different Apple email account. And a friend of mine claims, and I wonder if this is true, she claims because of my Yahoo email account that she got email and it corrupted her computer. Is that possible?
Yeah, so what happens, and that can happen with any email account.
Okay.
So if oftentimes, one of the things that can happen is think about the bad guy who's trying to spread their malware. Oftentimes what they'll do is if they get into a computer, they put that malware into an email and they go into your address book and send it to everybody. And so that when they open it, it goes into their address book and sends it to everybody, and it kind of propagates that way. That's why one of these slides back said, if you're careful, it helps everybody else.
No one else, said they had a problem. This is one person.
It may have just been sent to a few. It may have been caught in filters on other, somewhere along the line. But I mean, it's a very common technique of the bad guys. They go into your address book and send it to your friends.
Yeah, that just goes to what Peter had said earlier about if you receive an email from a friend or someone that you trust, and there's a link on there and it just doesn't look right, don't click on it. Either call or text that person and say, or even forward the email back. Hey, I got this email. What is it? My email has been compromised. I have a Yahoo account, but it could happen to Gmail, it could happen to Apple, it could happen to anybody.
Okay, so
We have one online question
Yes.
as well. How secure are apps like Google Pay or Apple Pay for those of us who are using our phones instead of credit cards to pay the cash register?
more secure than your credit card.
Really? Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
Think about your credit card. It's got all that information on it. And when a waiter walks away with it, or when you hand it to somebody, they can easily swipe it through a machine that reads all that information and stores it. They are looking at it. With Apple Pay, it's a different number for every application. I personally use Apple Pay everywhere I can.
It's resistant. How about like
Plus,
PayPal?
it's faster.
How about like PayPal?
I use PayPal.
I thought the
Make sure.
credit
With
card
PayPal,
with chips.
if there's a transaction that, let's say you buy something from like any vendor, and either you didn't authorize it or didn't like the service, you can go to PayPal and you can typically get your money back.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so-
I'll use that to like go on eBay, I'll use PayPal instead of my credit card.
Yeah, you think about these companies and their reputation. You want to work with a reputable organization that has skin in the game and they care if something happens. So, first off, like a PayPal has probably better security than you're going to find, that you would find elsewhere. Plus, they're going to make it right for you if they can to save their reputation if anything happens.
If you have a chip card, I thought that was the same sort of thing, that it's just a one-time.
It is, but your card still has a magnetic stripe and it still has the numbers and the expiration date and the the little 3 numbers on the back.
Okay.
So here's, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, would you recommend, and I personally never do this, many sites want you to put your credit card on there with all the information, and we're gonna keep it for you. I refuse to do that.
You're depending on the reputation of that site.
Okay, I still don't wanna do
Yes.
that.
I do it with Amazon, I do it with PayPal, I do it with very, I can't think of any others I do it with.
I'd rather put my.
It's a smart choice, if you don't feel comfortable.
Smart choice.
It helps you.
Yeah, and then again, you know, some of these password managers will remember your credit card for you if you want it to, so it'll fill it in for you. Just a thought. Yes,
What
ma'am.
about using apps? I know someone whose father works for AT&T, and he took all the apps off his daughter's phone. Is there a problem with apps?
Well, one of the reasons that parents take the apps off their kids' phones is because they don't want their kids' data mined.
Okay.
There's also apps that do things that, you know, their kids have apps that look like one thing and do another, that either they know it or they're being duped. Oftentimes with teenagers, they know it and they're doing it on purpose. Also, you have to be careful about the reputation of the app developer. That's why I say the Apple Store is a little safer than the Google Store, because Apple approves everything that goes in there. But anyway, even with that, you know, there were just 3 apps found on both stores that were mining data and not telling their customers.
But what if you want something like I have on my phone? I have very few additional apps other than what, you know, came with the phone. But I have one like Produce 12 New Jersey, their app. I like the information. Is that okay?
Probably. I mean, you're depending on if it's real data and it's, you know, it's from the, is it from the state? Or
It's a TV.
Oh, yeah, see, then it's their.
News 12. It's
News 12,
it's a
yes.
New Jersey. Yeah,
That's their
news channel.
reputation. You're depending on their reputation at that point.
Okay.
Yes.
I got a question. RFID products, wallets, are they really secure? So everybody's selling them, have your.
Oh, they're blocking?
Yeah.
Again, if it's a good one, it will.
Why are you laughing?
Well, because you don't, I mean, the manufacturer's telling you it's an RFID blocking wallet. How do you know? Most things that are not an RFID are, you know, either they're very close, like my credit card, I can put it up to the machine and it's got a really weak RFID in it. And that will, you know, I'm not too worried about that. But, you know, RFIDs can be very, very weak or much stronger. And so, you know, it kind of depends on all that.
Should we stop writing checks?
Yeah, because you annoy the people behind you.
But the reason why I say that, there's a lot of people who write checks because they feel that checks are more secure than online.
I think, I don't know. You know, what's the process?
Check,
All your numbers are exposed on the check. Tons of people handle it.
Right.
I gotta think Apple Pay is much more secure than that. And your debit card is probably more secure than that. And it's really annoying.
A related question. I recently got a blandishment from Merrill Lynch because we do all our banking with them. That I had to get the Merrill Lynch app, and I went on the App Store and I read about it, and there were numerous complaints. So I thought, well, all right, you know, let me give this a try. The advantage being that I can electronically deposit checks. First of all, I couldn't get on because it screwed up my password, and I had to cancel. My IT department had to straighten me out. And my question is, you basically take a picture of your check and you send it electronically to these people.
Mm-hmm.
What about in transit? Can that be picked up?
Well, let me go back.
What's the security here?
See where this HTTPS?
Yeah,
They do use that as well as other ways to secure it.
okay,
I would not do that from a Starbucks. I would do that from my home Wi-Fi.
yeah, right, yeah, well, that was the whole idea, but I finally abandoned the idea, I'm gonna continue to write out deposit slips.
Yeah, I use that exact app and I love it because I can deposit a check from home.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would like to be able to do that, but it was such a hassle to try to get onto the site because it malfunctioned.
Yeah, I would use it over,
Were you trying it, yet?
yeah, it's very nice. It reads the check for
It
you.
didn't recognize our account number or our password.
Again, it's this risk. Am I willing to take that risk? Now, think again that it's Merrill Lynch behind it, so their reputation
Well,
depends
yeah.
on it. So that's maybe I've made that calculation myself. I'm willing to do it for the convenience and the fact that I know who to go choke. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
We talk about all our personal things that we could do to enhance security, but every day you pick up the newspaper and, Chase Bank is broken in, this hospital is broken, I mean, everybody. So I really don't think you have much privacy at all.
It's
One of these companies.
again, it's the degree. You could, if you didn't do anything on the internet and you sat at home with no electricity, you'd be very safe.
That's what I'm saying, I just think we have to realize we don't have any privacy, we don't have any security.
Do the best you can.
We don't have perfect security and we don't have no security. Somewhere in between, right?
But we have really clever people trying to figure it out.
Yes, well, on both sides. Yes, ma'am.
Do you use Alexa at home?
I have one that I have to push the button. I have so I don't want Amazon listening to me.
I use it. Yeah. I also have 3 small kids that get a huge kick out of being like, Alexa.
Yeah.
You said it.
And I have a Wi-Fi question. Very often I'll be someplace and I want to get on the public Wi-Fi. And when I go to look at what's involved, I get these arcane instructions about I have to reconfigure my router and this, that, and I'm on my cell phone. What?
I just don't do it.
Yeah,
No, I don't.
I live in Fairfax County, Virginia, and when I go to my son's basketball games at a public school, I have to download a bunch of stuff, and I know I'm going to be there a lot of times, so I did that, and so I have Wi-Fi whenever I do.
What I don't understand is how you do that.
And I can't help you with that.
He refuses to.
Well, maybe that right there is a security procedure. So listen, we could go on like this for a long time. Here's Stop, Think, Connect. There's another really good, it's a checklist. And this guy, Bob Lord, I used to work with him about 10 years ago, and he's one of the smartest cyber guys I've ever known. He's now the chief security officer of the Democratic National Committee. Which, yeah. But he put out a checklist to his people, and it's been all around the news, and it's a very good checklist no matter how your political leanings go. And so I can share this with you. I'll share it with Egypt, and she can get it to you. But it actually has the links that, like, for a password manager, it says here's the link to go there. Here's all the. It's a really good checklist.
Just a question for you, Egypt. Is this going to be posted on the internet once the PowerPoints once they're done?
I'm happy to provide it.
Okay. So I don't have to write down everything.
So let me I just wanted I have I can go like 5 more minutes. Is that okay with everybody? I just want to talk about something that Cisco is doing with universities and with advanced high schools, which is something that I'm passionate about. because I think it's really cool and because it's something that Cisco is giving back. We have this cloud environment at Cisco called vCloud that we use to demonstrate our equipment to our customers. We demonstrate our products to our customers. And we have instances of it in all 8 of our data centers around the world. And it's a really big, huge investment that Cisco made to do this. Well, one of the things that we've been showing our customers is something called a Cyber Defense Clinic, CDC. And it is a bunch of cybersecurity tools in this virtual lab that people can access just with a web browser. And so what we're doing is we're providing lab guides as well as this environment to college professors and to high school teachers to use to teach their curriculum. And we're allowing them to use it any way they would like. And it's about, I mean, if you tried to build this lab, it would cost over $1.5 million. And then you'd have to manage it and hire somebody to keep it running. So ways that we see them using it is maybe a lab at the end of a cybersecurity class, maybe at 1-hour labs throughout the semester, maybe for staff enrichment, maybe to attract diversity students to STEM programs, maybe for community outreach. These are just some of the things that we've been talking to universities about. And you can see it's broken into different scenarios that are 15 minutes to an hour that address not only how to defend against cyber threats, but how to create them. So we want the students to kind of get the idea of how the bad guys think. So there's a lot that goes into that.
Is Rutgers involved with this?
Not yet. This is a brand new program and we're just starting to talk to people. And, you know, I saw this thing and I saw this lab and the guy that created it says, you know, it'd be really fun to take this to students. So he and I are the 2 people taking this out to everybody. And we're really excited about it because, you know, it costs us very little, but it's something that we can give that has a lot of value. So it's got all of these different cybersecurity products into it. And we offer a lab guide. So these are the attacking tools right here. And then these are what's in it now to protect, and this is what's coming. And there are all kinds of industry buzzwords there. You don't need to take that down. But really, it's products from Cisco as well as from other leading vendors. It shows how they work together, and it shows how people can defend against these advanced cyber problems. You know, the way it works is that a school signs up for it, we talk to them about it, we get them interested, we take their teachers through how to do it, we give them access to a lab guide that they can use, and then when they want to build it into their class, we reserve the lab for them and they can just use it any way they'd like. They can use our lab guide, or these are all live tools that they can use and create their own lab in it. So we're out there promoting that. And if you have anybody in education, let them know about that. But I just wanted to show that, you know, it's not all about making money for us big companies.
Is there a virtual lab?
It is virtual.
It is virtual.
It is virtual, yeah. All the student needs to do is bring their laptop with a browser on it, or if it's maybe in a computer room that has, you know, Safari or Firefox or whatever. And then they can get to all these things. Yeah. The other thing that a lot of people like is that we're taking the risk away. So some of the professors said, well, if I'm in my environment, I'm teaching these kids how to hack, what's to keep them from hacking me, or from hacking someone else from my environment, and then I'm liable. So we protect against that. So people really like that. And that is what I came prepared to talk to you guys about. I don't know how long you want to ask questions, but or what you want to do next, but I'm open to anything.
Thank you.
And Egypt, I'll forward you the presentation.
Peter, thank you for coming. This certainly has been insightful. If I could, Natalie, one second. What I'd like to remind people is that these are smart talks and they're all about what you want to hear, what you want to learn about. We can only do our job if you help us do it. And so if you have any suggestions, please see me or any of the staff. And let me ask a question. How many of you have ever been to our Smart Talks before? Okay, so this is your first time. I hope it will not be your last time. And the next time you come, bring a friend. And remember, you can always view this online. So, you know, we will put the PowerPoint online, but you should be able to see this presentation online as well as the older ones. And on that note, Egypt comes in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
And
so much.
thank you again.
Thank you.